Hello folks, this is Mark Smith with Family Tree Counseling Associates, and thought I'd check in. I'm going to be gone for a week on a cruise, and with my daughter, and I thought I would just check in with this process of grieving pretty horrific, pretty massive abandonment trauma from being in a relationship with a sexual addict or somebody who's had an affair. So I'll just share with you what I'm learning and what I'm going through, and I'm pretty authentic. I'm pretty raw. So this may not be for everybody, but I'm trying to share my journey to help you guys who are going through. If you just found out this week that your husband or your wife has been having an affair, a long-standing affair, multiple affairs, they have a sexual addiction. So I'm going to share 10 things that are helping me survive. When AA people talk about it's one day at a time, they ain't kidding. It's a survival process that goes on really one day at a time. So here's what's working for me. Number one, you're going to need to set boundaries with the addict. Betsy's in a treatment center. It's not one designed to work with sexual addicts, and every indication coming from my expert in the field, Paul Hartman, is that she's really not doing much good work there, that she's burying truths and disclosures, and that she's sort of in a narcissistic bubble, and that she's really not in recovery, but she's unsafe. So my very skilled therapist set a boundary for me with my consent, and that is he's asked the treatment center that Betsy not be allowed to call me or write to me for the remainder of her treatment, because those letters and calls were traumatizing. They were insensitive, they were narcissistic, they made me angry, they hurt my feelings. Some of them gave me hope, but it might be manipulation. So if you're dealing with a sex addict or an alcoholic or a drug addict, you're dealing with somebody who's a compulsive liar. And 3 weeks into treatment, you really don't know how it's going to turn out. You don't know who they are, so you can't trust them. So I very much so hope that the underlying Betsy, who I think actually does love me and I love her, I hope it works out. I hope good wins out over evil. I hope that she gets out of the treatment center and realizes she loves me and comes looking for me. But in the meantime, I have to protect myself from somebody who's cold and calculated and manipulative and hurtful. So set boundaries to help yourself. Number two, get the best professional help that you can get. And that would be somebody with the letters S-C-A-T, CSAT, after their name. You'd only want to go with those people if there's sexual addiction, and you'd probably want to go with them if there's an addictive affair. Your run-of-the-mill therapist is out of their depth. They have no clue. They're going to make it worse. I've been blessed to work with Paul Hartman, who's been doing this work for 30 years. He's a good friend of Patrick Carnes, and he's brilliant and he's wonderful. And I don't know where I would be in this process without him. I'd probably, be in a really dark place, if alive at all, frankly. Number three, Well, let me go back to number 2. So the CSAT people, they're trained by Patrick Carnes. His treatment center is in Pine Grove, in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. You'll want to send sex addicts there for treatment. If I'd have sent Betsy there, things would be a whole lot better. They're either neutral or worse as a result of ineffective and incompetent treatment, unfortunately. So get somebody trained by Patrick and Stephanie Carnes, and who use their approach out of Pine Grove. That's where Tiger Woods went for his treatment, if that tells you anything. Number 3, don't share with unsafe people, because very few people understand your pain and your trauma. And as you're sharing these horrific things from the depth of your heart, well-meaning people will interrupt you. They'll try to control you. They'll get you to shut up. They'll give you their advice, none of which you need. If you have a CSAT you're working with, you already have your help. All you need is a Kleenex and a hug. So if you want to get lectures and get ridiculed and get harmed, then talk with unsafe people, but don't do that to yourself. I've done it quite a bit, and you end up just arguing with people who mean well, who are actually hurting you. The 4th thing, and it may be the most important, have the courage to cry. I've spent hours and hours and hours and hours just weeping. And it doesn't sound like a 55-year-old man, it sounds like a 3-month-old, because it is a 3-month-old. I'm crying from the depth of my little infant heart, and it's very healing. And it was really why this whole thing was set up, to give me the opportunity to get at that material and to cry it out. Number 5, something that works very well for me is massage. But fellas, make sure you don't just stumble into any massage place. Go to legit places, because if you go to the questionable massage place, you'll get a happy ending, you'll pay a lot of money, and you'll become a sex addict. And it's not what you need. It's exploitive, it's sick, and be careful to only pick somebody who gives you an appropriate massage. And many times your pain will come out. You'll start crying on the massage table, and a good massage therapist will encourage that, and it'll be a safe place to cry. Number 6 is really engage in your hobbies. Some of my very best moments of the past 3.5 weeks have been on the basketball court. It's done a wonder of good for my physical body. Fellows who charge the lane with the basketball have been tossed, flying pretty far from, the lane, because they're coming in and they don't realize they're dealing with a fellow who's got some anger. So I've had several fellows question the hardness that I'm fouling people with, but it beats the alternative. I haven't hurt anybody, and I get done. I'm actually playing great. I've been scoring 3 and 4 times what I normally do, and running up and down the course. Of course, I've lost 25 pounds, so that helps. But get involved in your hobbies. Whatever you do to make you happy, do twice as much of it. The next thing, number 7, gather a team of 15 to 20 safe, supportive people. You'll probably have to go to 12-step meetings to find that many safe, supportive people, because 1 or 2 or 3 people aren't enough to gobble up all the time that you need. You're going to need a safe person to talk to 3 and 4 or 5 times a day the first month. And if it's the same people, no matter how much they love you, they're going to get tired of it. So have 20 text message addresses and able to call 20 people who can give you a Kleenex and a hug, or who know 12-step work, who understand trauma, and spread the work around. The number 8 thing that's been helping me is I pray a lot. I get up in the morning and I thank God for the healing. I get up in the morning and I thank God for the tears and how refreshing I feel after a good long cry. I thank God for knowing the truth about what my life really has been the past 6.5 years. I thank God for the world's best dog, Mr. Polly. I thank God for a wonderful support network of 15 to 20 people. I thank God for my extended family. I thank God for my 3 wonderful children. I thank God for my awesome practice and for the support that I'm getting here at work. I thank God for Paul Hartman. This man has been such a tremendous support to me. His organization is called Pathway to Healing. He works with his wife, Jenny. If you have a sex addict in your life and you're a couple, I think one of the best in the world, probably one of the top 2 or 3 in the world, is Paul Hartman, Pathway to Healing. He's been kind, he's been wise, he's been available, and he's just given me the best advice in the world. So I thank God for that. So I thank God for my hobbies. I thank God for my beautiful home. I thank God for my Harley motorcycle. I thank God for my beautiful Thunderbird gold convertible. I thank God for all the good material that I'm reading. The point is to get thanking instead of get bitter. The old saying, you can get bitter or you can get better. And if you're going to get better, you've got to have a relationship with some kind of higher power. I thank God for 12-step work. I thank God that on Saturday I get a week to go on a cruise with my daughter. So be thankful instead of bitter. You're going to have to train people in your life about the nature of trauma. You're not going to find 15 or 20 people who understand trauma. You maybe find 2. So people who love you and who are capable of listening will shut up long enough to understand that if you have extreme and horrific abandonment, like your partner slept with 30 people, or they've been practicing infidelity for 20 years, then your trauma is 50 times greater than somebody who that found out their spouse just had one affair in the last month. It doesn't even compare. People who say, well, if they slept with 1 person or 100, what does it matter? It matters 100 times worse. And they're just foolish and they have no idea what they're talking about. So you're going to have to educate people that the deep level of pain you're in is normal, it's healthy, you're not crazy. Don't let anybody shame you that you're acting crazy because you're acting normal. The sex addict who violated you and who performed violence and soul murder upon you with the multiple and egregious acting out and betrayal, they're the ones who cranked up the trauma that's causing you to be so intense. Now that's the truth, so don't be ashamed about it. Having said that, you need to get the help that you need to have in order to not freak everybody else around you to where you're a little too intense. So, and the 10th thing I want you to know is what I always want you to know, and that is nobody ever gets victimized in romantic relationships. I recruited Betsy to be my mother. She is my mother. My mother was a rager, a controller, somebody who had a false self that was different from her real self, somebody who physically abused me, somebody who betrayed and abandoned me tremendously, somebody who would set me out in the yard as an infant and let me cry, somebody who really didn't love me when I needed love when I was a little infant. My mother had many affairs. There were lots of uncles around. She told lies. She broke the law. She went to jail. So when I met Betsy and fell in love with her, unconsciously I knew that she was somebody who had all those qualities when she was in her addiction. And I'm hoping and praying that underneath her addiction that there's somebody who really does love me. And I hope that this does work out, but it may not. She may not be ready to hit bottom. She may not be ready to truly be in recovery. So you might have to walk away from somebody who's an active addict, and you just don't have a choice. They're going to kill you. The pain of it will kill you or drive you crazy. You're going to be using drugs or getting arrested or losing your job or just being miserable. So save yourself. If you have to walk away from your addict to save yourself, you have to do so. And I'm having to do so now. And please pray for me and for Betsy that God would turn her heart around and that she would really get into some genuine recovery. But in the meantime, life goes on, and what you should do is move forward, let them go. Old saying, if you love somebody, let them go. If they're yours, they'll return to you, and if they're not, you know, they won't return to you, and nor should they. So I don't know if she's going to get out of the treatment center and go find this fellow that she's been addicted to and continue her addiction and her affair. I don't know if she's just impacted by the treatment center negatively, and when she gets out, she'll sort of come to her senses and seek me out. I don't know what her future holds, but I know mine is bright, and that recovery works and therapy works, and that I've been taught a great lesson about safety and self-care, and I'm really blessed. And the other thing is, I'm going to be able to take the experience of this and write several really powerful books that are going to save lives and impact lives all over the world. And I hope these set of videos have been helpful to you. They've been hard for me to make, as you might imagine, as you could tell. I'm not wanting to give the impression that I've handled this perfectly. There's been moments of rage. There's been some overly aggressive behavior, sending, emails out of her confession to folks that I probably shouldn't have sent it out to. You're gonna act goofy. You're gonna be full of anger, and you just want to get surrounded by people who love you, and you want to cry it out so you don't act it out. And so I've been able to do that, and my feedback from my expert Paul Hartman is that I'm doing a pretty fabulous job overall. So I feel your pain out there, folks. You're not the only one going through this. There's hundreds of thousands and millions of people who are going through it and have gone through it. And get the support you need from a CSAT. Reach out to God. Reach out to safe people. Rewatch these 4 videos, and you'll get through. And when I get back from I'm taking off 3 out of the 4 next week. If you want to talk with me, I'll be glad to talk with you and share from my wisdom and my experience. So if you haven't joined our YouTube channel, Family Tree Counseling on YouTube, do that. Also, I have books on abandonment and shame and affair recovery on the website familytreecounseling.com. Thank you for all the wonderful comments. If you comment, I don't want your advice, please. I'll take your encouragement. I'll take your empathy, but really don't. Unless you're a CSAT, then probably keeping your advice to yourself might be good advice coming from me. So God bless. Thanks for watching.